We have a quorum. Would you call the first bill, please?
SB 113 by Senator Gudger.
Senator Gudger, this is the same bill you brought in the special, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, thanks for allowing this to be expedited and put on the agenda today. And
Sure.
Committee members, there are some changes. Everyone has agreed to it. Hospital Association, Nursing Home Association, trial lawyers, myself. But if I need to go over those two changes, I'll be more than happy to.
Just please rapidly, if you will, yes.
There's two changes that we made in there. One is the way that we defined healthcare facilities. This also allowed, which was an unintended consequence, to allow psych wards in there too. So you don't want somebody walking up to Taylor Hardman and saying, "Hey, I want to come in and see someone." That's on lockdown. So we changed that. The second, it was something I thought was deserving. Harold, this bill of this is named Harold Sachs bill. Obviously, would like to recognize his wife and daughter right now, Bonnie Sachs. Would you please stand while you're here, Debbie? Please stand. I have spoken with Bonnie, and the second change was that we had everyone's affected by this bill, I feel like, and so we also added a name to name this bill after, which is the Ann Roberts bill. And he did not ask for it, but I wanted to do that just because I think it was important to everybody, and especially my friend Senator Dan Roberts. So that's the only two changes.
All right, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move favorable report.
Second by Senator Williams. Call the roll, please.
Senator Beasley, Senator Bell, Senator Butler, Senator Chasteen, Senator Coleman Madison, Senator Gavan, Senator Roberts, Senator Shelnutt, Senator Stewart, Senator Weaver, Senator Williams, Senator Stutz, Senator Melson.
Aye. 8 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is given a favorable report.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman.
Yes.
Just for the, I had no knowledge of this.
I know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Senator Butler, does anybody know where Senator Butler might be today? Okay, we'll just go to the next bill and come back to his SB 20, is that correct?
SB 20 by Senator Beasley.
And Senator Jones, you're carrying that bill?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Carrying this on behalf of our good friend Senator Beasley. SB 20 basically brings Alabama law in line with some federal stuff that was passed. One of the major requirements is that all facilities have a designated representative. Designated representatives must be defined and are subject to background checks. This deals with pharmaceuticals. It's helping control, drugs and things through the supply chain. So that's what the bill deals with. And it deals with some licensing stuff to properly verify and vet all applicants for the position of designated representative. So it requires those facilities have one in compliance with federal law.
Any discussion from the members? Favored by Senator Shelnutt. Second by, was that Senator Gavan? Sorry, demoted you. All right, we have two more members. Would you like to be added to the roll as a yes? Or, okay. Okay, so using previous row with those two added, 10 ayes, 0 nays, the bill's given favorable report. All right, the next bill, please.
SB 28 by Senator Melson.
I'm going to bring that one back up. Let's go ahead and go to the next one.
SB 18 by Senator Beasley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, carrying this for Senator Beasley. This deals with the State Board of Prosthetists and Orthotists. Basically, the two certifying organizations that are in state law no longer exist. So we need to rework that so that they have an agency that actually can certify them, because the two that are mentioned currently in the code no longer exist. That's the thrust of the bill.
Any discussion?
Let me defer to Mr. Ronnie Ezell.
Yeah. I'm with the Board of Prosthetists and Orthotists, the executive director. Well, are you referring to last year? Yeah, that was a bill that was needed to clarify the definitions of different types of orthotics in the state. This bill is needed this year because this action took place after the session was over with last year. Is why we're having to bring this part up. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So move.
All right, by Ms. Coleman Madison, do I have a second? By Senator Chastain. Any objection to previous row? All right, Senator Butler, would you like to be added to the roll? Okay. Aye, okay, 11 ayes, 0 nays. The bill is given a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and we're praying for a speedy return for our colleague, Senator Beasley.
Thank you, Senator Jones. Let's go back to Senator Butler's bill.
SB 16 by Senator Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill just allows the board to issue a permit for an entity or a business that they need the license. Right now, when we talk about that, they talk about licensing the individual pharmacists. This just allows them to license a business as such.
Any further discussion with the sponsor?
I have a question.
All right.
In licensing a business, are you talking about a business
A
that
pharmacy business.
pharmacy business that
Yeah.
has a licensed pharmacist there?
Yeah, it's what the board says, it's a technical issue with them, how they classify the business.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move
Mr.
approval.
Chairman?
I'm sorry, was there a question?
Yes, sir. How is the pharmacy board managed? Do they have their own group or are they managed by another entity,
Well, the board members are appointed by the governor
right?
from a list submitted by the Pharmacy Association.
Right.
They manage themselves.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Yeah,
Yes.
Senator Sturts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Butler, so the pharmacy itself would say, I'm trying to think through a scenario of, I'm a pharmacist, I own a retail pharmacy, and then that business is licensed,
Yeah.
right?
Could be a wholesale business or a freestanding pharmacy building itself, the business.
So could a non-pharmacist own a pharmacy, and then the pharmacy would be licensed and they would,
The pharmacy, well, I'll give you chain stores or that way. They're owned by a corporation and the pharmacist that's hired there has to manage the pharmacy.
so in this case, that's where I'm getting, I guess, is the license then to the corporation and
For that pharmacy,
for that pharmacy.
because they own it.
So
But as
each
far as
individual
operating, the
pharmacy.
pharmacist has to be there.
And then the pharmacist would have to be licensed that was there too.
He's
So,
already licensed.
so you're duplicating it.
No, we're licensing, the board's licensing the individual, but they license the business too.
Well, but now does the business have to be licensed as a pharmacy
Yes,
by the board?
yes.
Okay. What? I thought, but what does it do? I thought it was already that way. That's what I'm asking. Is
Well,
this
the
an
entity
extra layer
has
of
to have that.
licensing, or is it the same it is now?
Quite frankly, you've messed up my mind.
Do you need a lifesaver from the audience there? Do you need to phone a friend?
I
Or
think I need a veterinarian.
Well, I can help you.
I think your host.
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to ask. Is it an extra layer of licensing, or is it already done exactly that way?
I said that because I had a conversation this morning about mad cow disease, and I thought about you. So
So in this
it's an
situation,
entity which is the business itself, and somehow the board says there's a technical problem they've got. What it is, I don't know. It's a legal matter, I guess, but they license the building as the entity of the pharmacy building.
is that correct, Mr. Giles?
Where's he at?
I'm-
There you go.
I'm just trying to make sure we're not adding another layer of
No.
licensing.
I think what we're
Uh,
doing is making sure the facility has a license proper, and then individual pharmacists, as they rotate, have their license too.
Well, this has
That's-
to do with remote dispensing too.
Well, not dispensing. Bobby Giles with the Pharmacy Association, and this is a board bill, and Logan, of course, represents the board. To put this as simply as we can put it,
Please do.
the current language defines a pharmacy that's permitted. The pharmacy is permitted. It says a person or entity. And they were referring to a person in LSA as person, place, or thing. So what this does is allow the board to create rules for pharmacies, permitted pharmacies, to create rules regarding remote access outside or remote work, not filling prescriptions from home. That's totally different. That's order entry. But for a pharmacist like myself to log in to my pharmacy after hours or otherwise, right now that's not allowed. There's no rules in place. So what this actually, where it's technical, and it does get screwy, where it's technical is this allows the board to create rules to ensure that any remote access outside of the four walls of a pharmacy, that the board can create rules of how to make sure that is maintains integrity and that HIPAA is protected and everything like that. And right now it doesn't exist.
Thank you.
All right.
Does that answer?
And the association does support that.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable voting on this bill? Would somebody like to give a favorable report? Senator Williams, second by Senator Gavan. Previous row, okay? All right. 11-0, the bill's given favorable report. All right. Next bill.
SB 66 by Senator Melson.
This bill has to do with the over-the-counter products that you're seeing at convenience stores with the psychoactive cannabinoids and other things. There's no regulation right now as far as age. This just puts an age requirement of 21 years of age, and 5% tax on the gross proceeds as well. So it just regulates the product. I've been getting a lot of calls from schools where they're having students in the school at the high school level, having to have people come take them out of school and take them to the doctor. So it's just putting a protection and putting an age requirement on it. Any discussion? Favorable report? Senator Chastain, second. Senator Gavan. Any problem with previous row? 11-0, bill's given a favorable report. Thank you.
SB 28 by Senator Melson.
Thank you. This bill has to do with the scope of podiatry. In the past, we've had podiatrists who have completed 3 years of residency who have not been able to come to the state due to the limitation. And this just gives a more broader definition. It still doesn't allow them to do what they're trained to do, but this gets it to a point more palatable by the medical community and others in the state. Currently, they cannot go above the ankle and or to the ankle and above it. This allows them to do that. It does not let them go to the mid-calf or the knee. As far as amputations, it lets them go to the show part joint, which is just the midfoot amputation. Again, this is not expanding their scope as far as what they're trained to do by any means. It's not like finding I'll give you an example. When we finish residency, we go to the hospital and you couldn't even be a family practitioner or internal medicine to admit to the unit. Now they're letting nurse practitioners run the unit. And so it's not like we're trying to find a solution for a shortage, which has been I don't want to say excuse, but it's been a solution that we've used to find a way to get health care to people. I'm not trying to say there's an issue with treating feet in the community. I'm just trying to say these people are qualified to do what they've been trained to do, and actually more than what we're allowing them to do. I'm not going to vote this bill today, but I do have three, and again, this requires a 3-year residency. Now they're even doing 4-year residency. I think there's like 6 or 7 programs that require 4-year residency. So I have 3 podiatrists that have shown up, and I'm just going to let them come to the mic and tell them what they do and what they are not allowed to do. The first one is Mallory Kirkland. If you'd like to just come up and make a statement and let us know your situation.
Hello, thank you for having me today. My name is Dr. Mallory Kirkland. I practice in Birmingham. As you can tell by my southern accent, I am from Alabama. I am from the Gunnersville area, technically from Grant, Alabama, but it's usually unrecognized by most people just because it's so small. So I'm used to the very rural Alabama, and I want to help treat rural Alabama, but also the whole state of Alabama. And the biggest thing that we encounter, unfortunately, is the fact that people are limited whenever they come to us. And that's because of the current law. The law has not been updated since 1973. Which it needs to be, because education, training, all of those things have definitely changed since 1973. To give you an example of what I have actually had to go through in order to become a podiatrist today, I went to 4 years of undergrad, which I graduated from Maryville College, earned a BS in biology with a minor in mathematics. Then I proceeded to go to medical school, podiatry school in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at Temple University, where I completed a 4-year program, again, medical school, podiatry school. During that time, we can describe exactly what we learned throughout that time, but we did the full body for the first 2 years, and then we started honing in on the actual lower extremity. And that is what we're focusing on primarily here. Now, what I did after that, after I did my residency program, I did a 3-year surgical training residency in Indianapolis, Indiana. I learned underneath some of the most prestigious and well-known people in the world. They speak at local and national conventions. There are textbooks, and those are the people that they have written those books. I have learned under those people and trained under those people. Now, when it comes to what I'm able to do, when I enter into the state of Alabama, that's limited. So in surgical training, I was able to actually go past the ankle. I was able to go to what is called the tibial tuberosity. That is below the knee. That is not the knee. I want to clarify that. But essentially, it's the upper leg. Again, we are not trying to argue for that. We are trying to be even, less than that. We just want to have ankle privileges to allow our patients to have, the best quality of care that we can provide. Now, what I've been able to do essentially is, I am able to assess the patient, try to be more preventative in their care. I want to be able to treat them holistically in the sense that, okay, they come to see me, I notice that they have a foot problem. Okay, their foot problem is also attributed to their ankle problem. All right, we can treat that. However, if I notice something that's more nervous system related, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to send it to the neurologist. That's what I'm going to do, because that's what I've been trained to do. I'd send it to someone who is more qualified in that field. I'm specialized in the foot and ankle surgery. That is what my specialty is. I just want to be able to simply do what I'm able to do, and this is going to most benefit the patients. Let's think about that. Patients, we refer back and forth to each other way too much. If there's the ability to be able to treat and see that patient all in one go, why not do it? Because most of the patients don't want to have to travel to multiple doctors in order to have to get one thing done. And that's what's happening, unfortunately, at this time.
Any questions for Dr. Kirkland?
Yes.
Senator Sturts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you say surgery of the foot,
Yes.
Fractures, open reduction, internal fixation,
Yes, sir.
plate screws.
Yes, they can
all
be
that.
both elective and non-elective. So the elective surgeries are going to be more so things that patients come in for like bunions, where they have hammer toes, those sorts of things. And again, we're addressing those issues, but they may also come in for non-elective procedures, which again are open fractures, whether that be of the foot, but also what I have been trained to do, which also includes the ankle. So I would be able to address that instead of having to send them out for another provider, and their delay of maintenance of and management of that care again would be delayed.
So an open fracture, you feel trained, comfortable taking care of?
100%, yes.
Okay.
I have done over 1,400 procedures during my residency program. Mind you, that is 3 years. 1,400 procedures. I want to clarify that, because when you are seeing a lot of specializations and that sort of stuff, usually you're only requested to do minimum of about 30, 120. My program, my other programs that a lot of my colleagues have gone to, we far surpass those expectations.
Senator Roberts, did you have a question?
It was somewhat along those
Yes,
I'm trying to learn.
that's okay.
I get what your training is. You have other colleagues that are as old as Senator Melson is, or as old, even older than that as I am, or Dr. Stutz, who may or may not have had this. But help me understand.
There's no grandfather in. They have to complete a 3-year residency, and a 3-year
Correct.
residency's only been established how long?
I want to make sure it's like since 2011, I believe.
Yeah.
2013.
So the old folks like us didn't do 3 years. Is that?
No, it would be, that's where I was trying to go. I mean, I read this.
Yes, so I definitely want to clarify that we understand that the podiatrists of today are not the podiatrists of yesterday. We get that. And I'm not trying to say that people that, did not undergo and go through the training should be able to do surgery. I do not think that. None of us do. But if we have received that training, I do not see why we should be limited and why our patients should be limited to access, because I have patients traveling over 100 miles because they cannot find a podiatrist near them that takes their insurance. And that's, again, if you look at the numbers show you why we have such problems. I mean, we have approximately 160 practicing podiatrists in our state. Out of those 160, maybe about 120 are really actually practicing, and then you get down to the ones that are actually surgically trained. Those are going to be about 20. That's what you're looking at, is about 20. And if you compare that to the other states, our surrounding states, you have about 500 that are in Georgia, and then you have close to 1,500 that are in Florida. And that's where all of our colleagues, especially the ones that I have worked with very closely and trained with, unfortunately, that's where we're losing them to. We're losing them to our surrounding states.
All right. Well, let's go with Dr. Barksdale next, and we'll.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Kirkland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for having us here today to advocate on behalf of our profession. So just to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Kirkland was saying, I'm actually one of those podiatrists that did not come back to the state of Alabama. I grew up in Florence. I was born in Birmingham, raised in Florence. I completed my training in New York, went to podiatry school in New York, and then I did my residency at New York Presbyterian Queens. My program was actually 4 years in length, so we actually we're pretty close to essentially, if we're talking about the difference between what we're able to do as far as what orthopedic residents are able to do, we very much mirror that. Our rotations, the only specialty we did not rotate with was OBGYN. So when we're going through our training, it's very rigorous. We are basically put in with the emergency room doctors, vascular specialists, infectious disease specialists. We basically rotate through every rotation in the hospital. And then we start specializing in what we're able to do, which is basically everything related to foot and ankle. So when I finished, it was pretty close to what Dr. Kirkland was saying, probably around 1,500, 2,000 procedures. But we also treated everything up to the lower leg. So the reason I did not come back to the state of Alabama, I'm practicing actually right across the state in Tennessee because of the restrictive scope. And I've been in practice now going on 4 years. And I probably performed at least 300 or 400 ankle-related procedures since I've started practice. That's something that could be happening in the state of Alabama, especially I'm practicing right now in a rural area. If I would like to say, it's very difficult to recruit an orthopedic surgeon a lot of times to a rural part of the state. But if the podiatrists were able to operate up into the ankle, you would see a lot of doctors wanting to come in, but this would open up hospital jobs. It would open up care to the patients throughout the state. I think that the scope, considering when you look at the surrounding states, Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee, they're actually some of the least restrictive states in the entire country. The fact that Alabama is just not there yet, I think it was disappointing, but that's the reason why I did not choose to come back to the state at this point. I really think our training is to the point where, I would put, especially the rotations we went through and the amount of work that we went through, I would put our training up against any orthopedic foot and ankle specialist anywhere. I think that this would be a very positive step forward for the state of Alabama.
Any questions? Yes, Senator Coleman Addis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, thank you for coming. I can't add anything to what he said. I mean, I've carried this bill before, so it's been before us before. And we've heard and seen time and time again where people have come before us. We train the best. We have these medical institutions here. As a matter of fact, in Jefferson County in Birmingham, we're the largest medical center in the Southeast. People come here. We train them, but we don't retain them. Again, we are training them for Florida, Georgia, everywhere else. And I have come across so many people. It's not just this particular specialty here. There are a number of other specialties where our young people are being trained and they leave. And then we find ourselves forming a task force committee to say, how can we recruit? Or we have a shortage in this and we have a shortage in that. But the bottom line, the people, in my opinion, who that we are disadvantaging are our citizens, because they have to travel out of state and pay exorbitant amounts of money to do that, housing and everything else, to get the service that we have already trained for. You're going around the world to get the services that you've already had right here, but you sent them somewhere else. So I'm hoping that this body will do the right thing for our citizens, and really let's become the best that we can by providing healthcare services for people who need it, and pass this time, because it's been before us a number of times.
Anybody else have a question? I've known James since he was this big and used to run around with my son in the neighborhood. Well, he exceeded my expectations because I thought he was going to go a career in rollerblade when he was little, but he went to UNA. I think he had a 4.0, went to UNA at, and then you just made the UNA Hall of Fame sports, didn't you?
I did. I was inducted 2022.
Yeah, well, congratulations on that. And then he played minor league ball at Pittsburgh, I believe, for a while. Is that right?
For a few years.
A few years, yeah. So, he's just a solid, well-rounded kid from my neighborhood growing up. And I'm not trying to find him a special way to do anything he's not qualified. I'm just saying, let the boy come home and do what he's been trained to do at the level he's been trained to do. And, I know there's a lot of pressure from other people to protect turf, and we either play golf or go to country club. I don't. I'm not a member. I won't join any that lets me in. So, I'm one of those. So I'm just saying, I think that some of these individuals are qualified, trained, and ought to have the chance to do what they're trained to do. And I hope, that we're not going to vote again, but when we do, I hope y'all will look it over, get comfortable. And if you don't, I understand. But I'm just saying, this is the example of somebody who's ought to be able to do what he's trained to do. And Dr. Mann, I wish I could read your last name, but you write more like a medical doctor from what I can tell here on your. So would you introduce yourself? And
my name is Dr. Matthew Nalamling. It's Nalamling. So I'm not going to really add anything else that you haven't already heard from my colleagues here, except for that I could probably just round out kind of a little bit on the back end. I've been into practice about 7 years now. And I might be the only podiatrist in the world that actually left a state that gave me ankle privileges to come to a state that didn't give me that. So I was practicing in Los Angeles, but for reasons that I can actually thank you guys for, I left California for a better place. And so I think we, coming into this state, that was one of the things that I had recognized when talking to some of the, colleagues at my current practice. In my 7 years, I was strictly with an orthopedic group. In my training, I focused heavily, obviously, on foot and ankle, but I did a lot of crossover with orthopedic training, scrubbed total knees, total hips, long bone fractures, big trauma, rib fractures, anything that I could get my hands on, just to get the training, the added experience, just understand, that component of it. Did rotations through internal medicine, through the ICU, plastic surgery for 2 months. So the training is there. My whole point, though, with all of this is that with my orthopedic colleagues, I was, the referral base for their foot and ankle issues, trauma, reconstruction, ankle joint replacement, whatever they needed. As it goes here, I am with an orthopedic group as well, but it's, kind of as Mallory had mentioned, it's one of those things that now coming here, when the patients come in, that we have to kind of assess and sort of divvy up how that goes. And I do have to refer out for some of my patients. So it's one of those things that it is a little bit frustrating when I can offer that to my patients. And I even have that conversation with them. And I say, hey, look, in this state, they won't let me practice the way that I was, formerly 7 years ago, or, for the past 7 years. So just one of those things that I think, just kind of rounding out from the perspective of having come from that practice and kind of coming into a situation like this, fully capable. I mean, multiple trauma surgeries, reconstruction surgeries. It's definitely something that is in my wheelhouse. So if there's anything else I can add to that or questions to answer, I can provide that for you.
Senator Roberts.
Dr. Numling, thank you for being here today. Where do you practice right
So I practice right now in Decatur at the Decatur Orthopedic Center. And my family and I, we moved out to Huntsville area. So I'm still learning the territory.
Okay, I appreciate your taking time today out of your practice to be here to talk with us.
It's my pleasure.
Senator Shelnut.
It's okay. You don't have to say my name.
I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
I'd just like to thank Senator Melson for bringing this bill and your concerns about health care access across the state and making me a doctor today. That's also good.
Honorary.
But, I might need your help on another bill giving access to health care across the state. So I appreciate you on this bill.
Any other questions? All right, if none, thank you all for coming. Please stay around and meet the senators if you want to and discuss any issues you have, but that concludes it. So we'll appreciate y'all being here today.